Welcome, everybody. Uh, Welcome to UFO Man Live again. It's been months since I've been here, so we're starting up a new schedule. We have a whole bunch of people scheduled, and our first fabulous guest this evening is Jeff Selver. He is a self-proclaimed author and alien contactee who has just come out recently, and we're going to dig deep into his storyline. And if you have questions, we can surely address them when we get a chance. For some reason, I'm having trouble talking, so I apologize.
You're just excited.
So please welcome Jeff.
Thanks.
Well,
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Tim, Sarah, Polly. Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Jeff, the first question tonight is going to be coming from Polly.
Yeah.
So Polly, go for it.
Jeff, I am so happy to have you with us. I feel we will need like 5 episodes with you because your experiences are just amazing, and I am more than glad to share everything with our audience. So let's start from the beginning. Who was Jeff Selver as a child? Where were you born? And when did your first experience happen?
Yeah. So, okay. So they're kind of two separate things, right? Because I wasn't aware I was having contact. And so I was born as a kid in Prince Rupert, BC, in Canada. And so I was born in Prince Rupert, there for a year, and I moved to Burlington, Ontario. Now, when the memories came out, they came out in 2019. I could, it's a really crazy thing, these memories, because I could feel I'd been picked up as a baby. So I could feel like as a baby, I'd looked into one of the eyes, and it happened once. And so I'm kind of convinced that for whatever reason they had taken me. I have my own guesses about what that was about. And then the real other kind of like memories per se for alien contact, when all the memories kind of were unraveling, was when I was about 6 years old. Me and a friend, basically, we didn't come home for a night, and my parents called the police, and turned out we had alien contact, but I didn't know. And I didn't have any understanding about what had happened. All I knew was that it was dark out and I had to run home. And basically we were playing, and then it was dark out. We had to run home, and the police were called, but they didn't come out yet. And we came home like 11 o'clock at night. So it was like really crazy for little 6-year-olds. And we were down in the ravine, and it turned out there were 2 contact events there that I wasn't aware of. And those contact events were setting up the stage for what they were going to do with me later on. So yeah, that's it. Basically, as a kid, I grew up in Burlington, Ontario, and then moved when I was about, I can't remember the age, must have been 12, something like that, 12 or 13, moved to Coquitlam, BC. And so we kind of did this back and forth, East Coast, West Coast thing. And by the time I was I was 14 or whatever in BC, in Coquitlam, that's where I grew up as a teenager. And I feel like I grew up in the best place in Canada, because Vancouver is like Coquitlam. The lower mainland is just amazing. Mountains and trees and forests, and it's all lush here and just so gorgeous. Such a great place to grow up. And basically the aliens came back when I was 16 years old. And again, I wasn't aware of it. But at that point, they had wanted to make an agreement with me, and they had a plan in mind, and I didn't understand this stuff. But at the time, they convinced me to do it because they said I had their genetics, and I could feel. So I was a bit of a different kid, and they were kind of explaining like that I had them in me. And that was kind of answering why I was a bit of a different kid. So I kind of like had a bit of a learning disability. And so I guess like we now know it's neurodivergence. So I had neurodivergence as a kid, and super creative, but struggled in school and felt like my creativity was. I felt like there was something in me, even at the age of 16, and as in that time when I was questioning it was when I had contact. So they were kind of like aligning themselves with my thoughts about what was going on with me at the time. And so they made a plan with me.
I have two questions for
Please.
you.
Yeah, please.
One question is, it seems like there was a period where you were not aware that you were contacted at all.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you had these memories that made you realize that something happened with the phenomenon.
Yeah.
So my first question is, how did these memories come to you?
Yeah.
What happened? What triggered those memories, if you have like a sense of it? And the second question is, when was the breaking point between you were not aware that you were contacted and when you started realizing that this happened to you and maybe you made a direct contact?
Yeah.
So when did you change that?
Yeah. So the answer to that starts with, so they met me when I was 16. They made an agreement with me to discover my soul. Again, it was behind my life and I wasn't aware of it. And so what happens is a strange event occurs when I'm 20 years old that changes my entire life. And the event is, that's what the book, I have a book called The Rising. And it is, the nature of the story is all around this experiment that they wanted to do that changes my life. Now, it's kind of this consciousness event. That's how I frame it. And it makes me leave my life and I abandon my life. And so the event is mysterious. Thank you. Yeah, that's the book. And The Rising is the name of the thing that they did with me. And there was a genetic component to it. That's why there's a DNA in the front there. And so, yeah, basically the aliens did this thing with me. And I wasn't aware that they had initiated it. I didn't know I was having contact. When I left to go traveling, after this mysterious experience occurred to me, I started seeing objects in the sky. So I was having close encounters with, anomalous orbs and such. And I didn't understand any of this. I didn't understand I was having contact. I was hiding behind my life. I didn't know. So traveling for 2.5 years, it all ends. All the mystery of it, it was hard on me as well too. So I kind of maybe even had my own desire to move on from all that. By 2016, I'm questioning what the hell had happened to me when I was a young kid, or when I was a teenager, or in my 20s. This is when it all happened. So what happened? I was questioning it. By 2019, I decide to look into. I don't take any. I'm not a UFO guy, so I didn't have any of the UFO stuff in me at the time, and I wasn't thinking anything to do with UFOs. I just thought I had a consciousness, like a spiritual experience. And I started watching, in 2019, I started watching Jeremy Corbell's documentary on Bob Lazar. It was grounded. Yeah. We took it very seriously. God. Yeah, it was like, it's really well done. It's very grounded. And that was the first time ever I took UFOs seriously. And I started to watch videos. I found a YouTube channel called Finding UFO. And it's a YouTube channel of people's anomalous objects that they film and they just post online. And when I started watching those, the objects I'd seen traveling came back. So then all of a sudden there was this weird thing in my head. Like, okay, whoa, wait, what? Okay, those things that I saw that I didn't really assume were UFOs kind of look and behave like some of these objects that I'm seeing on the videos, but never mind that they're interacting with me. So the same way that they had interacted with me when I was traveling. And at the time I thought it was like spiritual. So now there's this activity going on. And then eventually there was a telepathic kind of thing that was occurring with it, which was freaking me out at the time. And I didn't really like that. Now there's Eric Davis and Jack Villay have a research paper, telepathy can be experienced from craft. Yeah. From a UAP. So this is kind of normal. So that was how it all started, was this UAP thing was kind of talking to me and I was trying to ignore it. I didn't really understand the connection. And it was terrifying me also because underneath all of this was a history that I didn't want to know about, and at least would be hard to unravel or take some time to understand. And so then one day I'm meditating and I'm thinking about that consciousness event. And I'm saying to myself in my own head, my own dialogue, and I say to myself, it must have been that book I read. And so I read a book at the time. And at that time in 1997, when this consciousness event occurs. And the thing that I now had recognized as that telepathy from the UFO or the UAP says, no, it was our meeting with you as a young teenager. And I was like, what the hell? I was kind of like stunned by that intense voice, but also like answering this. I was like, whoa. And I was kind of terrified by it. And I didn't want to hear it, didn't want to think about that anymore. And then I'm in the shower and there's this like right after the meditation, I'm in the shower and all of a sudden there's a memory. And I remember seeing an owl behind my house as a teenager. And all of a sudden it dawns on me, I never saw that owl. Yeah. And this owl was in the trees and it had highly reflective eyes. And all of a sudden it just dawned on me, wait a minute, I never saw an owl. Like, why do I have a memory of an owl that I never saw? And then I kind of remembered Whitley Strieber's books from when I was a teenager. I did read Communion and when I was 16 years old. And I remembered this idea of screen memories and owls. And that's when I went, wait, what? I kind of was like trying to understand how that could be. And I went back to the location of where I knew that owl screen memory or that owl memory was. So it's not too far from me. It was about a 50-minute drive. And it's in Coquitlam where I was living at the time as a teenager. And I went back to that location. And when I had that memory in my mind, I could feel for the first time ever in my life, one set of events that I thought occurred, and then something else was underneath it. And something that happened in my life that I wasn't aware of, like literally the first feeling ever in my life of something having occurred that had been hidden from me. And I could feel I had been lured out as a teenager. I could feel whatever lured me out was friendly. And then that's all I knew. And I spent energy trying to understand what it was. And I had flashbacks from that, but I didn't really understand. It was all combobulated, the memories. And it took me some time to put all the pieces together. But that was the second contact event that occurred to me when I was 17 years old. And and I was lured out of my house as a young teenager. And so that was the beginning of touching what it feels like to be in their presence. And once I kind of like had that, then it started the domino effect of one flashback and then another. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, it was 16. And I just kept thinking, okay, there's only two. I had these two contact events. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, when I'm coming home from my girlfriend's house, why do I have a weird feeling about that road? And all of a sudden there's like memories on the road. And so it starts like that. All of a sudden they were just popping up. And it took time. I spent a lot of energy, months at times trying to understand individual events because I needed to know what the hell had happened to me. And I was very private. My family knew about it, but that was about it. I spent about a year spending energy. At times I didn't want to know, but other times I wanted to understand it. And that's how it all began unraveling. So now the point is that the memories were highly detailed. And they contained information that I just forgot 20 years later. Like, so I had a contact event while hiking in a local hike up the mountain. And I'd forgotten.
Do you think it was in purpose? It was erased in purpose for some time, and kind of they were waiting for some specific moment to awaken whatever happened with you? Why? Why did they wait this time for you to?
Because when you
later.
Yeah, when you understand what they did with me, so they did some things with me that I had no capacity to understand at the time. So I saw the afterlife when I was 16 years old aboard craft. Yeah. And then
kind of avoiding a post-traumatic.
Yeah, altering my life in every possible way. Yeah, it would be very maybe beyond trauma. It would be such an extreme event to contain as a 16-year-old.
I gotta ask this: when you say you saw the afterlife, you saw where spirits dwell.
So they showed me the death of my last life. So I have a whole bunch of knowledge behind that. And then I just start rising up, and I become the oversoul. Like it's a whole thing that I'm witnessing. So I'm witnessing as a third person, and they're showing it to me like on a hologram. And it's like, and I'm in this room where I became an orb. It's bat crazy. It's just totally nuts, right? But this is what happened. Like I have all the memories of it, and I have like a million ways I can confirm all these different pieces of information.
Right. No, I've heard of it before.
Yeah. And it's you got it. It's not actually uncommon for the aliens to do stuff like this to people. So yeah, this was all part of the experiment, was to show me my soul. And what is the soul but the oversoul in the afterlife, right? So that's what they showed me was my oversoul, like this higher dimensional me, and who builds the lives. And so I witnessed the afterlife, and the aliens are there. That's what's the most insane part. They're also kind of showing themselves as part of the process. And yeah, they were a part of the afterlife. They're in that dimension, and they operate there as well too. And then I watch myself building my life. And and so it's a whole sequence of events. It's actually quite detailed. There's a lot of it, and a lot of it's on my YouTube channel. And that's how it all starts. And then I'm altered from that as a 16-year-old. And then they stash that awareness away. That's the most insane part of the story, is how I now know how they do that too. But at the time, you're just a recipient to this, and you agree to it on some level, and you're not understanding it. And then that was part of the experiment, is they use that energy, if you will, and that awareness, and then they manage that, and they were managing it over a couple of years. And then they burst it out when I was 20 years old, and that changes my life, and I go traveling. So.
Okay, why are they actually performing this massive experiment?
So I can speak for myself, but I've done enough research. I've been at this for several years now, learning as much as I can. And there's tons of evidence that they're evolving us. I think the evidence is I think the free research is the best academic evidence that there is. So the free research from the Beyond UFOs, academic work, it has like a ton of academic papers in there, and they've done their own research, and 3,000 experiencers, and everybody walks out with psychic abilities, clairvoyance, or ability to interact on maybe the thinner dimensions, if you will. So they're definitely evolving us. And I think that crash retrievals could be aligned with that, if you start thinking about how technology evolves the mind as well too. So you can see an actual attempt from the entities in a subtle manner, not in a very aggressive way, but a very gentle, subtle manner, are evolving humans. And now, what does that really mean? And sometimes people think that means only goodies, goody, feely good stuff.
No.
But sometimes you have to face your shadow. And John Mack's Abductions has a really good point that I'm going to be using and drawing from in my future research, which is every single one of those contactees that he interviews for his book, John Mack, in his book Abductions, all of them had traumatic events. And all of them had consciousness expansion, and all of them felt that the consciousness expansion had to be combined with the trauma, so it could kind of even out the expansion. So because you can't just be given the afterlife and then not have to learn how to struggle or manage some things. So they kind of like balance. They know how to balance out the human. Actually, is the best way to frame that. So yeah, there's a component here where you have to face your shadow while you're evolving. And that's what I see. I see evolution occurring, and human evolution, and the aliens seem to be spurring it on or pushing it forward in a subtle manner. Yeah.
I have to say this, that I have interviewed several abductees or contactees, and several of them don't want to be called experiencers because they feel violated.
Yeah.
They feel taken against their will.
Yeah.
They feel that the experimentations that are being done, whether they are being done for our benefit, are being done against their will.
Yeah.
And they're very painful and very destructive to them. And some very famous cases have said that they've even fought back against these entities and hit them and struck them and tried to fight their way out of the craft because they didn't want to be there and they didn't get a benefit from it. So there is an aspect of people that are having negative encounters besides the positive ones. The thing that gets me is everyone that's virtually in the contactee narrative are saying that, oh, aliens won't harm us. They won't do anything to hurt us. But I have to refer to what Pauline and I were talking about before the show, the green orbs in Brazil that are chasing down people, that are actually harming people, and according to Lou Elizondo, have killed people over in Brazil. And I don't know what these things are, but they are directly related to some type of sighting. Now, so there has to be aggression within the UFO structure. And the reason why I say that is I don't know, maybe I'm speculating, but usually there's a duality within the universe. And who knows what that duality is on other planets or in different dimensions or different multiverses, but in ours, it's good and evil. That's how we perceive it.
Yeah. So okay, I definitely hear everything you're saying, and I don't like. Listen, I also have the trauma, right? Like, there's 1998 was. I mean, it's. I mean, it's the same. It's on par. Let's put it that that way. But the reality is that, I mean, I can't speak for other people's stories, and I definitely don't want to, and I definitely don't want to put down anybody's stories as well too.
Right.
But we're dealing with something that is not Star Trek. And
right. I know.
Yeah, and I think that when we want to call them bad guys, we want them to be Klingons. We want them to be, evil warfaring creatures, and or maybe they just think of us as lab rats. But what we're dealing, I mean, unless that person is dealing with a Klingon type creature who treats them as lab rats, we're dealing with interdimensional entities, and so. And we do get affected and altered and changed by their presence. And so how that happens and what the core story of that is might just actually be very different for everybody. And so to the degree with which someone is resisting it, the entities may get more aggressive. Maybe it's true. Right. Yeah. Right. And I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know that either. And when we're dealing with something that is of the scale that we're dealing with, and from all the information I have from my personal experience with the entities, we are out of our league dimensionally, right?
No, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, and so then trying to understand them in the context that, like, literally we have to give up our ideas to understand them, and that's the weird part about this, or at least rely on personal experience is probably the best way to frame that, rather than saying ideas.
We can't look at them from a human perspective.
So also when you talk about good and evil, that's why I kind of like, I think beforehand we were having a conversation all together, and you kind of brought up animals, you brought up sharks, right? And it's true, like it's kind of like that. It's like we can't really understand. There might be a truth here where the entities do have a maybe some of them do have a kind of not a negative perception of us, but kind of desire us to be more evolved than we actually are. And so, they have a natural tendency of their own to maybe be aggressive to an individual. And there are some cases, by the way, I'm aware of where humans have been hurt, but that was a military man. And so I'm sitting there saying, but isn't the military man going to be a type personality, aggressive in their mind? So they already approach this with maybe an aggressive mind frame. Like, I keep seeing us having problems and trying to identify the entity's behavior or their intentions when they're highly psychic. They're already highly sensitive to the human on a dimensional, psychic level, I guess you could say. Yeah. And so that adds to the picture. When people have their own shadows that they aren't addressing, the entities might actually be more assertive or aggressive.
Well, and that brings us to the point again where maybe all this psychic evolution took from them their empathy and all these love and feelings that we have as human beings. sometimes I feel that they take, or that was my feeling when I was taken to this craft. They needed my empathy for these hybrid kids, so I could kind of hug them and love them and sing for them, because I didn't know what was going to happen with those hybrid kids. So maybe we judge the aliens based on our human feelings. And so
Well,
I come again to this example that I gave before, where, we cannot ask from a shark to behave like a dog, and not because the shark is a bad species, but because that's his nature. So, and it doesn't mean there are not evil species. I don't know. I guess it's like
well,
everything in the universe, for good
well,
or for bad, you know?
well, also, like, they could be doing stuff to us and not realizing that it actually does hurt us, because maybe they don't feel pain either, like we do, or maybe not at all. So there's that too. Like, they don't probably mean to be aggressive. I think a lot of the times I would imagine that they just don't feel it like we do. So that's what I was
So
always thinking.
I've always seen this a bit differently. So here's a good example. It's going to blow your brain. So Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita tells Arjuna, who's the general, to kill his uncles and his grandfathers, right? And he's telling him to do it to fulfill his dharma, right? Because that's your job. That's your spirit's role in this life. Otherwise, if you don't, you're failing way more. And the reality here is that spirits are born into the planet, and sometimes they're the bad guy by choice, on purpose. So we have a misconception about what's good and bad, what's right and wrong. We have a value system, which we live in our human world. We build laws around things, and we say this is good and this is wrong and this is bad and this is right.
Exactly. We were
But
raised differently.
if the aliens are in the afterlife, they might think a lot differently about what's good, right, wrong, bad, and they have a different perspective. And
Right.
there's a reality here where, where something that might be traumatic might be beneficial for an oversoul, because you can't deny it, because oversouls put you here. So if the oversoul
Right.
put you here, it put you here to have trauma. So then, like, the aliens might be facilitating a traumatic role. And
Right.
you can't separate those two things out, because for me, the entities are in the afterlife. They're in this other dimensional space. I saw them there. And I had trauma, and they were not empathetic to that trauma. They were like, figure it out. and then
But
when
do you
I'm old
think-
enough,
do
I'm
you
able to
think-
figure that out and balance out that reality. And this is what the Bhagavad Gita itself teaches us, right? Is to have that type of balance about our own life, that there isn't good and there isn't wrong and there isn't happiness, even to say there's not even to be balanced about joy. So there is a truth here about the oversoul dimension is maybe we can't see sometimes the purpose of things. And so therefore they might be acting on that level. And, I can't speak for everyone's contact, of course, obviously, right? But sometimes we might be missing part of the picture. And I think that's sometimes what's going on here.
Do you think the healing is as much important as the trauma? Because,
You have to have trauma.
when you go through a trauma and you don't get help in order to heal it and give it the right place, well, I guess also your frequency is not right also for a contact, if you are meant to be contacted or awakened. So the question would be, do you think the people that suffer from post-trauma, for example, are more contacted somehow? Or is the trauma kind of or the empathy that comes with the trauma also a way of contact? And is the healing also a part of this process?
Yeah. So in relationship to contact, I can't really speak to that. Look, I remember John Mack having a good section in his book Abductions that there was no pattern. There was no pattern between people who had traumas versus non-trauma, and the aliens do seem to. I mean, from his studies, it looked random. So, not that I would believe it to be random, but I think that how we handle these things is the core of it all. How we handle our I don't think there's a rule. I don't know that, of course, right? I can't speak to these things, but I don't believe there would be a rule to that. I think that's the same level as like seeking guidance from an angel or your spirit guide or whatever, how you want to frame that you can have trauma and still seek out, or dealing with yourself sometimes opens you up to those dimensional spaces. Yeah. So I think it's individual.
I know for myself, like I might have had, things happen to me when I was like really young and I just didn't understand it because, I'm learning disabled myself. And, I always thought that everything I saw was obviously wrong, bad because everybody said so. So
right.
I never trusted my own anything. Right.
Right.
So there was this one time I was at a neighbor's function and ended up getting to the center of the pool and I started drowning. Right. Nobody at the pool area saw me. Right. And every time I got up, I didn't scream out or anything because I didn't want to get in trouble. Anyways, but then like one of the neighborhood kids saw that I was drowning, put me to the side and I was okay. But as the last time I was going down, right above me, like I saw my air bubbles going up and then I saw me standing above me. Wow. And it was like at that point, I started realizing there's just way more out there. And what does that mean, right? Why did I see myself above myself? It was clearly me. And so from that point on, I just became more interested in all this stuff.
Wow.
And I've said, seen, orbs myself, and not last year, but the year before that, I was filming a fire out here, and something just went right by the fire. It looks like a UFO to me. It's going really fast, and it skips the fire altogether, right? So it wasn't like a drone. The fire just started too. So, I've seen stuff and other things, and it's irresponsible to think that we're the only ones out here anyways. It really is.
Right.
And what's interesting about your story is a traumatic break broke a part of your consciousness open, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I noticed in, from my personal experience, but also John Mack's Abductions. I keep going back to it. It's just so well done because he pinpoints all these things, right? That the reality is there needs to, sometimes, true spirituality. This is the misconception everyone has too. Spirituality is traumatic. Evolution is traumatic, right? Nature is traumatic. So there has to be a break sometimes. And that break is sometimes breaking you out of things that are uncomfortable. Now, again, I'm not trying to make any case for someone who had negative contact and giving an excuse for things, but sometimes we have to maybe expand that breadth of what we think is really going on and consider that maybe something is occurring on a dimensional level that is benefiting both parties, and we can't know that sometimes.
I think a lot of us have, or most of us, for the most part, have been indoctrinated by media and everything around us to think a certain way. And when we have encounters, or we have abductions, or we have marks showing up on our body, or we have implants, or we have any of that, in this genre, our whole world view is changed. Our lives are changed forever. Mine was. I know for a fact UFOs are real. I know for a fact that there are ships coming from a different dimension. I know for a fact there are ships coming from our space, even from different planets in our realm of existence. I know that we are not alone in the universe.
Well, think about life here on Earth.
Trying to explain that to people sometimes is very difficult because there are people that don't have the capacity to wrap their head around it because they haven't had that break, as you're talking about. I've had some traumatic experiences that have made me think otherwise about consciousness. And I have learned to reach out when I'm filming, reach out to the stars and try to picture myself bringing in a ship from up high in space, having it look down at where I'm at and come down so I can film it. And it has worked a couple times.
Yes, I do the same thing. Visioning. I vision the craft, and she does replicate what I vision. Yes, that's awesome.
I've had that happen, and I've seen a lot of orange orbs with clear bubbles around them flying over the building I live in.
Right.
And me and another guy with the same kind of camera, a Psionics Aurora Black, infrared night vision camera. We went out and we recorded a craft coming down from space, straight down behind a tree, stopping, changing direction, going to the right, and going upward at an angle, and changing shape 5 times, and putting out an infrared beam of light onto the top of 65-foot pine trees. 3 different times. They would turn on the light, then turn it off, move a little bit, change shape, do it again, and then do it from the back.
It's a very clear video too.
Awesome.
It's like yours, and what I want to show of yours.
I do have a question. When you filmed your orbs, did you see them with your naked eye or just on the phone?
No. Yeah. I saw them with my eyes. Yes. Yeah, that's right. And the film isn't complete. I saw the object do a crazy movement, and then I knew it was real, and I started filming it. And then I didn't want to focus on the filming. I wanted to focus on what I was looking at, and so I turned the phone off. It was the first time I'd ever filmed a UFO or like an orb like that. Yeah.
I filmed one before too, and I could not see with my eyes. In fact, I would have seen it if I just didn't open the camera and it was right there. It was kind of overcast. It was under the Big Dipper, so I couldn't see with my eyes, but it was there on my phone, and I was very steady with it because my phone was going to fall apart, and it was all over the place. And I'm like, weird.
I can tell you this: when we filmed the UFO that flew over our building that had the infrared beam, we could not see the infrared beam with our eyes, but we could visually see it without the camera. We could see it in the sky. Okay. But we could not see the beam of light. The camera is what picked that up. Now, what I was going to show you is when we were talking about your orb that you zoomed in on, the corona around it, the energy that's around it.
Yeah.
When you zoom in on colored orbs with your camera, it'll turn them white.
Right. Like
and
that. Yeah.
In regards to this, it's white. But you can see kind of a little bit of color in the corona. Now, I boosted the color, and this is what it really looks like.
So awesome. Yeah, I love it.
It's got the red around it. You can see the red. Now, the red is pronounced on the left side. I almost wonder if that is an infrared. And from what I understand, a lot of these orbs use infrared. I got the video he filmed, one of the videos he filmed, and here it is.
Oh, I love what you've done with it.
That's beautiful.
This is actual footage of a UFO UFOs that he filmed, and this is a zoomed in of the largest one.
It's incredible.
Amazing.
So that object, right? So Bob Lazar is the one, and I've now learned that information came all the way from Desmond Leslie, I think his name is, that UFOs, the reason they're lighting up is because there's the amount of energy coming out of it as an anti-gravity device is ionizing the atmosphere, which is why it lights up. And that's what you can see here. You can see that's what the corona is, right? It's interacting with the atmosphere. And in the video that when I focus on the corona, you can see the corona whipping around in the atmosphere. So it's clear it is an ionization of the atmosphere that's occurring, just like Bob Lazar said. So it's pretty fascinating.
On our object, we could tell that it was not just the ionization from the anti-gravitational propulsion systems of the craft, but it was also because of the infrared beam, because of the direction of the light. You could see the direction of the light.
Right.
And it was coming out of the bottom right side.
I love it.
Now on yours, it's on the upper left side. Well, midway upper left side. And so that's why I thought it might be a little bit of an infrared reaction. I don't know, just a guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
In regards to orbs, what is the predominant color that you see?
So red was the early days. I haven't seen them red in a long time. I've seen orange once, and otherwise it's white. So it's these spherical objects that can play around like a satellites that appear, disappear, and and sometimes they're close. Like sometimes they'll be in the atmosphere or like be in my neighborhood, and but typically they're white. Yeah,
I've seen the white ones down low.
Yeah, down low. Yeah,
and up high, I've seen the orange ones.
Interesting. Yeah,
and the
I've seen
orange ones are
multicolored
fast
too.
moving.
I've seen multicolored, like red, purple, green, kind of like switching or swapping around in colors. And I've seen those in the atmosphere as well too, high up in the atmosphere.
My sister and my brother saw a cluster of green, blue, red, and orange lights all in a ball, big ball.
Oh, wow.
In the valley where our farm is located in Wisconsin at about dusk. And it was just flickering above a pasture.
Oh, so
and then all of a sudden it just blinked out. It was gone.
Wow.
And so they're everywhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Yeah.
And they're watching everything. And it's almost like the movie Dark City, where they have the people working behind the scenes to run the show, the grand show of humanity. It's like these things are behind the show, watching and watching over us and keeping track of what we're doing.
Yeah.
It almost seems like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty convinced it's a quantum AI system. So it's it can watch. It's like, and so quantum, it's kind of like a God AI. That's what I without any other way to call it, I call it a God AI, because it's kind of like an all-seeing AI. Yeah, it knows what you're talking about. So many times I've been on a podcast or talking about something in a presentation, and then that night or the next night, the thing I talked about, she does it. So I'll say, oh, she did this thing. And then all of a sudden the next night I go out and she does it. So they're aware what we're talking about. Yeah. They're observing us or observing us in high detail.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I have a friend named Lisa Savoy. She is an experiencer, and she wrote a book that she released a couple of years ago, and she took it off the market and she redid it, and she's going to re-release it, and she's going to let us know when it is re-released, and then we're going to have her back on the show. So Lisa, just letting you know, we're going to have you back.
Awesome.
I have a question for you. I don't know how much can you tell us about hybrids. In my experience, I am taken into a craft where about 50 women are having birth or in different stages of pregnancy. There is a praying mantis there, kind of. She's the boss. She's telling everyone what to do. And little gray aliens around the beds. They look like Skinny Bob. And all the babies that were already born, they all had these almond black eyes of the grays.
Yeah.
So what can you tell us about the hybridization programs, if you know specifically between the mantis and the grays, and what happens afterwards with the kids? Because, there are some experiencers that get to know their hybrid kids and visit them, and there are some hybrids that you don't know about them. What is their task in the future also?
Yeah. So there's some of those questions I can't answer. I don't know how the full detail about, how someone can or can't interact with their hybrid children. But I was told that they plan to put them here. So my whole thing is to tell people about this. That's kind of like I was built and designed, if you will, to kind of relay this information that they plan to put those hybrids here. And now, is that the case for all of them? I can't know that. But the whole premise, I understand after all my years in this and communication presently still with the UAP, that they plan to put those hybrids here because they come from another dimension, and they may have been planning this a long time ago, and so they plan to put them here, and then that transition is actually where all the hard part comes in, because I don't think that they want to deal with humans. Rough world, let's put it that way. I don't know how to frame that any other way, but I think maybe we condition ourselves to live a bit of a hard existence, and they're telepathic and they're highly sensitive, so I think they like their environments, but they want to use our world basically and adapt into our world, and that's what the purpose of the hybrids that I was interacting with are for, is to be put here onto the planet. And do
you think the governments are either already collaborating with those hybrids, or are the governments taking these hybrids as a threat for their narrative?
Good question. What I think is going on is the entities or the phenomenon is in control completely. And then they're saying, if you're not on board, we just do it this way. And if you're on board, this is how it happens. And I think that at one point they weren't on board, the government, and now they're trying to be on board. And I think that they're playing a bit of a game, the government. And I think that they want people to be scared of it. And yet I think that, and I think they may have like a long-term vision, like, okay, if we make people scared of it, then we will be the ones who know what it really is. And then we will be able to interact with it when it comes down here and does its thing. And I literally think that they're trying to preserve their wealthy and their friends and everything, and try to be the ones to interact. And I think the phenomenon is saying, no, we know who we're like, that's the reason they're picking up with experiencers and all this stuff. Like some of us have been trained on their crafts and such, right? So some of us will be able to actually be in their, and not just that, I'm fully convinced it's going to be related to genes. So people who are unexpectedly will be able to be in their environments, while people who were hoping they could be can't. Stuff like that. Well, I'm convinced will be part of the picture. It'll be much more different than people think. And I don't think they want humans in control of it, which is why technically it kind of looks like no human is in control of it. Humans are in control of us. Right. Governments are trying to control us, but it doesn't look like any human is in control of the phenomenon. Right. And I think that's the way they want it. And I think there's a reason, because they're trying to put themselves here in a way that doesn't, I think they just find humans a bit of a threat. That's what I am convinced of. And that it's hard for them to be around humans when humans are fear-driven entities or fear-driven beings.
And then I have a question for you. Your book, The Rising, addresses the issue of alien. I don't like the word alien, but let's say these life forms coming down here and building a golden city on Earth. How would they want to? Why would they want to build a city here if they think that humans are a threat?
Yeah. So this is the grand picture. And so I have a bit of information about this, some of it. And I do think there's two forces at play, or two realities that are kind of about to butt heads. And one of them is, I do think now that they are a species that are trying to preserve themselves. And that may have been part of the plan for like a long time ago. Species that put themselves into a dimensional state, and now they're trying to that allow them to unevolve or not evolve the same way that humans can, or that you can normally in the universe. So they're kind of stuck by having moved themselves into a dimensional state, and they're trying to kind of maybe come back out of that. And it may have played a part in why humans were created as hybrids a long time ago. And so now the problem, I think some of the things that are actually really at play here is that the nuance of hybridization is a lot with these other beings is a lot more, it took a lot longer than people think it does. And then what came at play was our own, expansion on the planet and coalescing with environmental degradation. And so while simultaneously there's a desire for hybridization, there's hey, wait, what are they doing? and they're kind of like watching us destroy. And I'm certain when we destroy the planet, I think we destroy dimensions, and I think we affect other dimensional states and spaces.
We actually do. Scientists have come to the realization that when a nuclear weapon goes off, radiation is bleeding into other dimensions.
Yeah, I mean, I don't doubt that. I've never heard that one, but I don't doubt for certain that that's occurring on some other spaces. Yeah. And I was showing some details like that the afterlife is affected by all this stuff. And yeah, and if I'm certain that they're sharing the planet with us in a dimensional place, and that we're affecting them. And these were kind of unexpected results. And so what was once we're going to put ourselves here is now, wait a minute. Now, since you're not planning to run the show, and then they went back to their boss, which I think are like the controller species, the mantids. And I think there was a whole thing about it. I'm certain that a whole bunch of alien species were like, what do we do with these guys? And then there's a grand plan for them to come in on a kind of a big way. And that's how the story is kind of laid out for me, or the premise of the story, and that it's happening after a planet event. And then that's when they put themselves down here in maybe some kind of capacity where humans are immobilized. And then they put themselves here.
Right.
Or maybe they're...
Go ahead, Sarah.
I was just going to say, maybe they're making us little hybrids so they can just take over because they can't fully live in our space, even though they want to, but they have to.
Something like that. And, yeah, I'd be cautious for like words like takeover, but I do know what you mean. But
okay, yeah, I think next door.
I think it's nature. I think it's like, hey, what happens when in nature a dimensional entity is kind of interacting with this other lower density entity?
Well, it's just like us.
Transformation occurs between both. Yeah,
right. It's just like us doing construction on land. We're displacing everything there for us, right? Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
What I was thinking is they're hybridizing the human race with themselves, so they can actually survive in our environment.
Yeah,
because that would be really difficult to come from a different dimension where everything's different, and then expect to survive here without making changes.
Yeah,
we do have a question for you from Eduardo Gonzalez Nieto 729.
He's from Mexico City.
Yes. He says, do the most powerful countries have hybrids as weapons for military reasons?
I can't know that. But I think that there's going to be, I think that the human mind to weaponize this has been a lot of the problems from the get-go. The attempt to take something that is what I consider to be on the deva level, on the angel level, or on the angelic level, or the afterlife level, and turn it into a weapon is like, trying to, I don't even know what the comparison is, but it's something from one high level to something a very, very low level. It's like these ideas aren't really meant to interact with each other. And humans, some of them and some corporations may be trying to do that. I don't doubt that someone is trying out there to figure out a way around that. But I think that's the reason the phenomenon, it's just a good example why the phenomenon is struggling, or would struggle to interact with humanity, is for a simple reason like that people are quickly trying to figure out a way to make it a powerful thing that they can take for themselves.
I do have a question for you from a friend of mine by the name of Sightings on 18 Wheels. he's been researching the fact that there are all these arcs that are actually activating around the world that have been found underneath the ocean, underneath Great Lakes, in mountains and such, that are supposedly piloted by the mantids, and that they are trying to gather and store seedlings, DNA from everything on the planet, just in case there is a catastrophic event that would destroy all of humanity. They would be able to repopulate somewhere else. Do you know anything about that?
Well, that's the scale of what I was shown. Something drastic happening. So, I mean, what's really interesting about a theory like that is we have case upon case upon case, Jacques Vallée, John Mack, of sightings, UFO sightings of the alien coming down and taking plants, taking boulders, or taking farming materials. Like you'll have them taking fertilizer, right? So you have them taking things as if if something was to occur, it could be framed in a bunch of different ways. Well, maybe they're just taking it for their planet or for their world. But yeah, they could also be taking it so they can replicate it when something happens here and they can put it all back.
Right.
And that's what I was shown, that in my story, the entities are taking over. Now, again, taking over is not a diabolical thing. It is managed planetary stewardship is actually maybe the best way to frame it. And the aliens I know are benevolent and maybe see humans as a bit, unlife caring or not caring about life as much.
Maybe we're the non-benevolent species.
Yeah, that's what I meant earlier about the malevolent, right? How do we know that we're not being framed as the one malevolent from their perspective? Yeah,
right.
We can't, it's hard to understand some of these details. So, and the entities I know, the humans are a problem. And it's, again, when I say those words, I don't want people internalizing that for themselves, because I feel like a lot of us have potential, and I think a lot of us are living out that potential. But I think as a collective, there's some problems going on here that are causing us to go down the avenue we're going. And the story I have is the aliens. There's a planetary event that causes a lot of damage, and then that's when they put themselves down here.
Kind of my feeling is after my experiences that it's like they are watching on us, and that's why we see them hovering around military bases, nuclear bases, and but they don't want to interfere with our evolution. Kind of humankind need to learn with our decisions for good or for bad. And right now, everything looks pretty bad, if you look around the world. And so I guess it also affects our consciousness all around. And so everything is affected by everything, not only on Earth, but I guess outside too,
Yeah, and I think you're right about that. I think that there was maybe a hope or a desire that we would on our own figure some of this stuff out, and then we, whatever reason or whatever the core of it is, we haven't done that fully. And so then, it's kind of maybe a bigger galactic or interdimensional question about what the hell to do with the human. And that's how it was kind of framed for me on my side, or at least from the entities I was interacting with. And and evolution is a big part of this, because it's undeniable we've evolved over the last 100 years, if not the last 50 years, even the last 20 and 30. I think that evolution is real, and that we're slowly making, people can't even argue the afterlife anymore with the amount of near-death experience research that's out there, right? So then
reincarnation.
And that's changing DNA, right? It's changing our consciousness, and that affects the DNA. We have good research now, Biology of Belief by I forget his name, but the guy who wrote Biology of Belief. that consciousness affects DNA. So we are, as a species, are evolving in kind of a drastic, maybe sped up manner. And that's what I think the entities have been slowly behind the scenes involved with, is that evolution. But it's slow, and it's kind of like a gentle push. While in general, we have to make our own choices. Yeah.
Hey, Jeff, do you want to say where you can be found online?
My website is www.jeffselver.com. So yeah, my name, which is right there. I think it's there. Yeah. www.jeffselver.com. And from there, on the bottom page, you can get my YouTube channel, my Facebook page, my Twitter account. It's all there, Instagram. And I haven't posted on YouTube in a while, but I'll be putting out a new video series pretty soon. And I just keep researching and putting content out there, and keep talking. So
we're going to send you a link to this show after it posts, and you can post it on your channel if you'd like.
I definitely will. I'll definitely putting on the channel, and definitely put it on social media as well too. So
okay, we're going to show you a copy of his book again. This is The Rising and the Alien Plan to Build an Enlightened City on Earth by Jeff Selver. It is available on Amazon. Paperback $21.99 and Kindle $9.99.
Yeah, you got it.
Also, it's not to dominate you. It's to change to societal structures that benefit you, and to change to societal structures that benefit nature. There are ways that are very advanced for society to coexist, but they are reorientations of your sense of self, because they evolve consciousness technology from the elder. Jeff Selver's book is amazing. Preston Dennett, author. Jeff's huge amount of detail and recall of some 26 interactions and abduction events puts him in the highest category of UFO contactees, stated by Ian Halling, co-host of Earth Files with Linda Moulton Howe, a YouTube channel and podcast. He also came out with another book called The Rising Workbook, How to Create Your Own Rising. That's also available on Amazon if you're interested. So take a look at that. We're going to go down the panel here and take last questions. Polly?
Jeff, this was so awesome. I want to bring a pizza and just continue for 8 hours.
It's great.
But, really, thank you so much for your time. Well, I guess my last question would be, what is disclosure for you, whatever that means? What, knowing all that you know, what is the alien plan for disclosure, and what is disclosure for you?
I've always considered Jacques Vallée a guy in the know, and he was just on Jeremy Corbell's podcast, and he said a very telling line, which is, we're going to have to learn to coexist with the phenomenon. So he's hinted at his knowledge that this is where it was going, and I knew that. I was drawing from his words, knowing that this was about hybridization and that the entities would live with us or merge with us. So that's what disclosure really is here, is getting humans ready for that, because that's the real part. And we think this is just about us learning that they're out there and maybe they'll come down and visit us. No, everything is changing, and we are going to have to change with it. So that's the real disclosure for me, is the acknowledgement of that. And then that's the beginning of it, because that's not the end. That's just the beginning.
Right.
So, that's where I think disclosure really, really, really starts, is the acknowledgement of that. Yeah. And I don't know what the aliens are thinking. So the aliens, it's something along those lines, though. Yeah,
they are praying right now. They are praying very much.
I have lots of questions. I just don't have one to end the show on. but I would definitely like to talk with you more about your experiences for sure, because that's all very interesting. Like I've had a few uh times where I hear owls outside the window here. There's owls in the area. It's not a big deal. It's just that I wake up in the morning and I got marks all over me and stuff. But like this is some really good information you have here and stuff that it hopes to validate me too, because like I said, when I was younger, I was made to feel that everything that I perceived was wrong and
Mm,
not right.
right.
And so
Right.
once I figured out that there's more out there and I can, interpret things correctly, right? It was like a whole new world opened up to me. Things became a lot easier too in some regards, right?
Right.
But
Right.
I really find everything you were talking about very interesting. I mean, there were several different other times I was like, I just want to say all these things to you, but I'm like, I'm just going to keep listening. So I just really want to thank you. You've been great, and yes, I definitely myself want to talk to you again.
Awesome, Sarah. Yeah, please
Yeah.
reach out. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I
Yeah.
have to say this. Polly and I were talking about you before you came on backstage, and we've decided that we're going to continue a series of events with you online so that we can dig deeper into your story and talk more about your enlightenment and your books,
Yeah.
okay?
Love it, Tim.
And
Yeah.
we'll get more into it. And we would love to have you back. You are now
Yeah.
part of the UFO Man family.
That's
So
all.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you guys for bringing me on. That's great. Yeah,
That's
I really
very cool.
appreciate it. Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
we want to thank you for your time and for coming to our show. And we'd like to see you next time, okay?
Yeah, you got it. Polly, thank you so much for reaching out and bringing me on. Tim, you're fantastic. Thank you so much for, creating the family. And Sarah, thank you so much for being here too and for all the support you provide as well too. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
Good night to
amazing.
good night to
Thank
everybody
you.
on the panel, and good night to everybody online who watched
Good night.
and everybody in the chat. We'll see you next time.